After just 3 weeks of the ceasefire, Hamas has announced a delay in the release of Israeli detainees until further notice, citing Israeli violations of the ceasefire agreement. Hamas stated that the Israeli occupation forces targeted displaced civilians and obstructed humanitarian aid. In response, Israeli officials have warned of a potential resumption of hostilities, with Defense Minister Israeli Qnews placing the IOF on high alert. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has warned of severe consequences if all detainees are not released by the upcoming deadline. As the ceasefire hangs in the balance, will Israel use this delay as a pretext to restart the war? What role will the international community play in upholding the truce? Welcome to In Depth. Following recent developments, the New York Times has reported that the delay in the next release of detainees from the Gaza Strip poses new challenges for the already tenuous 6-week truce and the prospects for a lasting end to the war. Hamas announced the postponement of the detainees' release while accusing Israel's government of violating the already fragile ceasefire agreement. According to the newspaper, this move threatens to derail both the 6-week truce agreed upon last month and the prospects for a lasting end to the war. Additionally, both Hamas and Israel have accused each other of violating various aspects of the ceasefire agreement, but they have continued to release Israeli and Palestinian detainees each week. In Gaza, a key point of tensions between Israel and Hamas is the fate of the second phase of the deal, which calls for a permanent end to the fighting, a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and the release of more detainees.
In a recent escalation of tensions over the ceasefire agreement, Hamas announced the postponement of the release of Israeli detainees, originally scheduled for Saturday until further notice. They stated that the delay would persist until Israeli occupation forces comply with the terms of the ceasefire and the agreed-upon detainee exchange deal. In a statement, Hamas explained that the decision was driven by the ongoing delay in the return of displaced people to northern Gaza, continued Israeli bombings, and gunfire targeting civilians in various areas of the Strip, and the prevention of relief supplies from entering as agreed. Hamas asserted that it has fulfilled its obligations under the agreement, but reaffirmed its commitment to the ceasefire terms as long as the Israeli occupation forces adhere to them. Since the ceasefire took effect on January 19th, both sides have conducted 5 detainee swaps, resulting in the release of 16 Israeli detainees and over 730 Palestinian detainees. However, despite this progress, each side has repeatedly accused the other of violating the ceasefire terms. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened meetings with advisors and the security cabinet to address the situation, while members of the Knesset criticized him for neglecting the detainees and undermining the ceasefire. With tensions mounting, the future of the ceasefire remains uncertain. Will both sides uphold their commitments, or will the agreement collapse, reigniting war in Gaza?
Hours after Hamas's announcement, US President Donald Trump stated that if all Israeli detainees are not released from Gaza by Saturday noon, the ceasefire agreement with Israel should be cancelled and all hell is going to break out, the Jerusalem Post reported. While signing executive orders in the Oval Office, US President Donald Trump told reporters Israel can override it, but from me, Saturday at 12 o'clock, and if they're not released, they're not here, all hell is going to break out. Additionally, Trump's comments came after Hamas said it was delaying the release of detainees indefinitely due to violations of the ceasefire deal, prompting Israel's defense minister to place the country's military on alert and order preparations for any scenario in Gaza. And for more analysis, we are joined from Cairo by Dr. Mohammed Osman, International Relations Specialist, and from Occupied Jerusalem, Abdel Nasser Mikki, Political Science Professor. A very warm welcome to both our guests. Dr. Osman, Hamas has decided to delay the release of detainees due to Israelis' violations of the ceasefire. How do you view this move, and what are the implications for the future of the ceasefire agreement, sir?
Thank you for having me, Rana. I think that it's quite understandable why Hamas would choose to suspend the prisoner swap or the detainee swap or exchange in the Gaza Strip, given that Israel has, since the ceasefire went into effect on the 19th of January, has not been upholding its end of the agreement on many accounts. Yes, it did withdraw from the Netzarim corridor most recently, and it did evacuate certain areas inside the Gaza Strip, and they did release the Palestinian prisoners as agreed. However, it seems that they are treating this ceasefire arrangement as a temporary arrangement, a temporary ceasefire, and not a permanent long-term cessation of hostilities, which means that they are using it just in order to retrieve their detainees, and afterwards they might choose to resume hostilities. This is what Hamas fears. And these fears were confirmed by, of course, the very preposterous propositions of President Trump regarding the displacement of Palestinians, which, of course, were endorsed by the government of Benjamin Netanyahu. And afterwards, also, like in terms of the humanitarian, the entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza, Israel has not allowed the agreed upon amounts. So, for example, by now, 12,000 aid trucks should have been into Gaza. Only 8,500 were admitted into Gaza. About 50 fuel trucks, only 15 were admitted.
200,000 tents?
Yes, 200,000 tents were supposed to be admitted. Only 20,000 tents were
Only
allowed.
20% were there, yes.
But yes, actually, that's like 10%, even, not even 20%. And even the refab housing that was supposed to agree about 60,000 mobile homes, not a single mobile home or a refab established home was allowed in. So you can imagine that there is genuine concern. And why is Israel blocking aid? It's because they seek to create the conditions to make Gaza unlivable, like President Trump claims, which can pave the way for the idea of displacement. So I think that's why, and I think it's completely understandable that Hamas would try to back out or at least suspend a part of the agreement, because the detainees are the only bargaining chip the Palestinian resistance has in this very tough calculus.
Dr. Mikki, Hamas's suspension of detainee releases has sparked strong reactions. What is the rationale behind Hamas's decision, sir?
Yes, I think Hamas has the right to suspend and not to, release the detainees. And I think they are rational in this regard, because Israel violated many things, bombing, attacking, killing the people, even in the ceasefire. And also, they are not prevented to even the equipments, heavy equipments, or the tents, or the mobile houses to enter Gaza. And I think Hamas is logic in this, and they know what they are doing, because that if Hamas still just release the prisoner, the detainees, like will go ahead with this. And also, at the same time, the Israeli will fulfill the commitment to continue this agreement. I think Hamas will not continue this in this regard, and I think they are more logic in this, and they are thinking that Israeli maybe they will not continue and they will delay, and also at the same time they will make the life in Gaza is miserable. Even although they are in the agreement, the mobile houses they should enter Gaza, and also the tents, and also the food, and also many of the heavy machines in order to that remove all the demolition or the construction. So I think they are rational in this, and this is the way that Hamas could deal and could maybe continue their this agreement or the first stage of the agreement.
Dr. Osman, given Israel's ongoing violations of the ceasefire, such as targeting displaced individuals and blocking aid supplies, as you further mentioned, sir, do you think Israel will use Hamas's postponement as a justification to resume the war on Gaza, which never stopped to begin with?
Unfortunately, Rana, that's a highly likely possibility. I wouldn't say an inevitability, but definitely it's a very high, there are very high chances that this will happen. And I personally believe, and I hope I'm wrong, that this is what the Israelis are planning. And it's for a simple reason. If it was only up to the Israelis, this war would never have stopped. Netanyahu does not care about the detainees. He would rather see each and every one of them killed in return for achieving his very sinister designs and plans inside the Gaza Strip, and basically uprooting the Palestinian people from their land. And he, along with the far right and along with a very, very significant segment of Israeli society, see the detainees as expendable. The factor that actually forced the incoming factor, or the external factor that actually pushed Israel to abide by this ceasefire, was Donald Trump, the Trump administration, ironically. And now this very Trump administration, Mr. Trump himself, is giving an ultimatum.
Dr. Osman, can I ask you a question here, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Osman, wasn't Trump the person that was that his narrative was always peace in the region, and peace all around the region, and peace in the Middle East? What happened suddenly? When did this turning table happen?
Trump happened because this is how Trump functions. So many contrasts and irreconcilable views all in one. But I think at the end of the day, he does have a coherent vision for the next day, and it does not, of course, correspond to the realities on the ground. Because what Mr. Trump is proposing right now, but before I come to that, I wanted to say that he himself is the one issuing ultimatums now, telling them, the ceasefire should be canceled if they do not release all the detainees, like not only the 3 detainees or the 4 detainees who are supposed to be released on Saturday for the schedule, all of them. So he's basically torpedoing the entire agreement, basically, by making such a statement. And the Israelis, of course, would be more than happy to reciprocate this very kind sentiment for them, of course, by Donald Trump, this very kind gesture, and they will go ahead and they will end the war, of course, unless Hamas, they will end the ceasefire unless Hamas backs down, unfortunately. So I think that the only way
out sir, do you think Hamas is going to back down?
I doubt it. We cannot disqualify that, but I doubt they will back down, because basically at this point, they have nothing to lose. What is being proposed, Rana, is the displacement, is the ethnic cleansing of the people of the Gaza Strip. So it's existential. So, okay, let us go back to war and annihilate us. We will not go down without a fight, So that's the mentality now. The Hamas, of course, now will be very fatalistic, suicidal even, because they are pushing them into this corner. And it's a very, very irresponsible move on the part of the Americans, and of course on the part of the Israelis, but we're used to that from the Israelis, unfortunately. This will open, I say in turn, that this will actually open the gates of hell, and excuse my choice of words, on the entire region, if they decide to go down that road.
Dr. Mekki, do you believe that Israel will use this delay in releasing detainees as an excuse to resume this war again, which it never stopped in the first place?
Yes, I think that Netanyahu, that he is not even believe with the agreement in 19 last month. He is not with this, and I think they impose on him, force him to go with this agreement, which is he believed that it's like just as a temporary, not a permanent. And I think that the United States of America, they imposed and forced Netanyahu to go ahead with this agreement, as Trump said from the beginning. Yani Trump was, or we could say that if Trump has two personality. One, that when he said that he want to go ahead with the release the detainees and go ahead with the ceasefire, and the other one is what he said yesterday in the conference, and he said that Hamas should release the detainees, all the detainees, not three, all next Saturday, 12 o'clock. Otherwise, it will be hell. So I think, yes, the Israeli, even Netanyahu is not believing with the that's with the ceasefire. He want like excuse and justification in order to go ahead with bombing and attacking Gaza, because in the next day of if the agreement has been finished, and after that they go to the three stages without any problem, and after that there will be permanent ceasefire. I think Netanyahu will go the next day. He will remove from as prime minister, and also he will go to the jail. So because of this, Netanyahu, and also he make the excuse to stay in as prime minister, and also not to collapse his government by supporting from Ben Gvir and also Smotrich, especially Smotrich, because as you know, Smotrich treated him that if he go to the next stages, he will go out from the government, and that means the collapse of the government. So I think, yes, Netanyahu is not believing, or is not believing with the agreement, but I think there is some limitation here from the Israeli government. Maybe the Trump said like this, but I think also now there are
What Trump
some.
said, sir, is against the agreement. They cannot go parallel together.
Yes, yes. I think also there is another, that's reason for this is that the Israeli, even some of the Israeli, not government, they are opposing, and the opposition, they knowing what is Netanyahu want to do. They know about his willing to go ahead in order that he escape from the prison, or escape from go to the court. So also the family of the detainees, and also there are important things that all the remaining detainees, they are from the armies. So now the army, I think the the IDF, the Israeli Defense Military, I think they will not allow Netanyahu to go ahead and attack Gaza, and at the same time to kill the detainees with the arm, all of them from the army. So this is also something that maybe Netanyahu will put him in his mind, in order to go ahead and to continue the stage. And I think Hamas
I'll be back
will
to
not.
you again, Dr. Osman. The meeting between Trump and King of Jordan today comes at a very critical time, sir. And of course, I want to ask you, in this context, what do you anticipate will come out of this meeting, sir?
To be honest, nothing much.
Exactly.
If Trump retains, yes, if Trump retains his
Sir, can I
position.
ask you a question? Do you think it's suitable or it's appropriate for King Abdullah to go to the United States of America today?
It's very appropriate, of course, because he wants to explain.
Thank you very much, sir.
The viewpoint of the Arab world and of Jordan, because Jordan will be directly affected by this. So he's going over there to engage and explain to this man in the White House, to the president of
Do
the
you
United
see
States.
that there is explanations with Donald Trump at this point, sir? Do you think that there are negotiations or explanations or anything that he is ready to make a consent about? Do you see at this point that this happening?
It's unlikely, but at the end of the day, Trump is a very unpredictable person. President Trump is a deal maker at the end of the day. He has no hardline core stances on anything. So anything is possible with President Trump. However, it's unlikely given that he has consistently adopted the same rhetoric over the past couple of weeks, nonstop.
This is what I was just going to ask you, sir. Since the 20th of January, did you see Donald Trump, the U.S. president, as any deal making, or did he make any deal, constructive deal at this point?
No, so far he's only into arms twisting. However, I don't think how that will work on the long term. It might work for the very short term with some countries. It definitely will not work in the Middle East, because the Middle East is not Panama. The Middle East is not Greenland. The Middle East is not Canada. The Middle East is one of the most volatile areas in the world. And it's a powder keg. And it's a violent place, full of conflicts and wars. And it's very, very dangerous to approach such a very, very old and deep-rooted cause or crisis in the Middle East like the Palestinian cause and try to treat it in that very simplistic manner. And I think this is what President Trump is proposing. Whether he is proposing this in order to extract more concessions from Hamas, this is possible. Not highly, I wouldn't lean towards that, but it's possible. And he might actually mean this. And if he means this and he insists on going down that road, it will cause a breakdown in relations between the U.S. and very, very strong partners in the region like Jordan and Egypt. And it would also jeopardize the security of Israel, because now peace in the region will be on the line. Peace in the region will be at stake. And I think that the American state, the American institutions, the Pentagon, the State Department, the intelligence services, all of them, they understand that. And I believe that now those national security teams of President Trump are trying to brief him, telling him you are undoing over 46 years of American progress in building credit and building relationship and alliances and partnerships in the region if you go down this road. So I think he might listen to reason at some point. So that's why I think it's very important that the King of Jordan is there to deliver that message in person, because at a summit level, when a king is speaking to him, not through the media or anything, and telling him that this will have severe consequences, this and that, it might change something. However, I do not believe it will, but I might be wrong, and it might actually do something. And I think that it's very important that until the last moment, diplomatic engagement is continued at the highest level with the United States.
Dr. Makki, in light of Trump's remarks about Israeli detainees and his call for hell to break loose, what does this mean for the American stance on this issue? And does it support Israel if it decides to resume the war, sir?
Yes, I think what it is American, so the Israel, but the American that he is like the United States of America is superior and they are ruler of the world and they could do what they want, regardless if there is opposition against them. And also at the same time, for the Israeli, he will give them like a message that they are friend to the Israeli, and also he supports them even in the war, and he is much more supporting than Biden administration, and he could do what he want to do, and also he want to send a message for the Iraq and the Israeli, that lobby in the United States of America that he is supporting Israel, and he will continue supporting Israel until they release all the detainees, and also at the same time, Israeli will be the corner and also stronger in the Middle East with supporting of the United States of America.
That was Abdel Nasser Makki, political science professor, and Dr. Mohammed Osman, international relations specialist. Thank you very much for your intellectual, informative knowledge and for your insights. And thank you very much for watching, for joining us in our program today, and for, of course, adding value to the program. That brings us to the end of today's episode of In Depth. Thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for more coming up here on Qnews.